Monday, we talked about experience. We talked about the most experienced high school football offenses heading into 2017. I want to do that same thing, but I want to talk about defenses. I need to issue the same caveat that we issued on Monday, which is that we are getting a lot of this data, in fact, I would say most of this data, from the coaches themselves. And coaches will shoot you straight. Coaches are not liars. Coaches are not here trying to pump up their numbers or anything like that. But there is a reasonable dissonance between how different coaches measure measure how many starters they have coming back. For example, there are some coaches who say, if you didn't start every single game for us, you're not a returning starter. That if we played 11 games and you only started 8 of them, you're not a returning starter. There are other coaches who will say, there are other coaches where we will literally get a number that it'll say, we have 13 starters back on offense.
Right.
Well, that doesn't make sense. That's not a thing. But the way that they're measuring it is if you started a game for us,
right,
you are a returning starter.
Or 2 games, or whatever the arbitrary number is in their head.
There is a reasonable difference there. Now, I will say that overall, I think that when you cut to the core of it, it's all the same, which is that these are the players that the coaches believe have the major varsity experience to contribute at the next level, this coming year. That is what we mean by returning starters. And so, when we look at this, when we look at the most experienced defenses in Texas high school football, it's worth taking it with a grain of salt because some of these guys may have only started 4 games, but they do have important varsity experience. When we talk about teams that have a lot of experience defensively, you're going to find that it's a lot of small schools. And I think it's by necessity. Right. Because let's put it this way. If you have a sophomore linebacker at the 6A level, he's probably not starting. Unless he's just a crazy, really good player.
Right. A lot of things will have to happen for him to start a game or 2, or enough for you to consider him a starter.
It is a lot more difficult for a player to start as an underclassman at 6A and 5A than it is at the smaller school ranks, simply because, well, we need you.
Right.
We only got 24 kids or something like that. We need you to play.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the most experienced defenses, teams I've got my eye on start with Decatur. Yeah. Coach Mike Fuller's Eagles bring back 10 starters defensively from a team that went 2 rounds deep in the playoffs. 10 starters back. That is a team that I definitely have my eye on in the 4A ranks. Well-coached, North Texas area. I think that they could be due for a run simply because of that experience.
And in that district, too, you're going up against some great offenses. Mm-hmm. So, that's a big factor, too. How many of these teams, when they return these starters, what have they really seen? Mm-hmm. Right, because you'll get a lot of returning starters on some teams in a district who maybe just haven't played a tough district, and that experience may not mean quite as much.
Dallas Carter is a team to bookmark. What I mean by that. So they've got 10 starters back defensively this year. They went 5-5 last year, including Jarrell Cherry.
Yeah, their best player by far, maybe the best player.
He's a crazy big time defensive line prospect. Right. They've got that top end talent at the senior position. Yeah. But what I've heard about from coaches in the know about Dallas Carter is that their class of 2020, which is kids who are going to be sophomores this upcoming season, is crazy.
Yeah. Cherry's a class of 2018 kid, so he's amazing. But they're saying everyone behind him might even.
They're saying
better.
You've got this top end talent in the senior class,
right?
But wait 2 years, and it's going to be even better. So if those young guys can contribute, then all of a sudden you've already got 10 starters, and then you've got guys who can fill in gaps because you're going to need to cycle in players. That's a good problem for Carter to have.
And talking about tough competition, they're going to be up against it this year.
Midlothian Heritage is going to be great.
Has offensive weapons in spades.
They do. Yeah, they really, really do. So Midlothian Heritage team to watch. But I'm very interested in Dallas Carter. West Columbia, a playoff team last year, they bring back 10 starters. A team that's always a team in their second year under their head coach, which is always something that I kind of I want to see. I think that if you are, I think any coach will admit that the first year that you come in is difficult.
Right.
Brent Maschek takes over West Columbia. The rep next, make the playoffs, go 5-6, bounce out in the first round. Here they are in their second year under Coach Maschek. Maybe they get a little better feel for the wing T, and bringing back the defense with 10 starters back, I think there's ample reason for optimism in West Columbia. Clint Mountain View, another playoff team last year, from way, way, way out west. 4-7, but they bring back 10 starters off defensively, and more importantly, when you combine that with the fact that they bring back 9 starters offensively, when you've got 19 back, that's a big number. That's a number that catches people's eyes, including ours. Kemp, from around these parts, a playoff team last year, 7-4. They bring back 10 starters defensively. Watch out for the Yellow Jackets in 2017. Valley View. Valley View is another example of a team won a playoff game last year, 6-6, and you feel like they were a year early. Because here they are, they bring back 10 starters defensively and 9 starters on offense. 19's a big number. One of the teams, the only team that we're going to, or one of 2 teams we're going to mention in both offense and defense, Bells.
Yeah.
Bells has a crazy offense with their quarterback Ponder, 10 starters back on offense. When you complement that with 10 starters back on defense, you talk about a team that kind of lost in spite of their offense, to put it in one way.
Sure.
That their offense was putting up crazy numbers, but the bottom line is the defense just wasn't all that good.
Right.
Well, now you bring back experience, and you expect them, 10 starters back, you expect them to take a step forward.
Yeah.
If Bells can take that step forward defensively, that offense we know what's going to do. This is Texas Tech.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I assume part of the issue there, too, though, is the smaller these schools get, the more these guys are playing on both sides of the ball, which can lead to some fatigue. If you've got a great offense and you guys are running around on offense, it may be tougher to play good defense.
Absolutely. If Bells can just get a little bit better defensive play,
you can see a nice run.
You could really see a nice run. A team you're going to need to know a lot about, Tenaha. Yep. We mentioned them in Monday's thing about the most experienced offenses. The defense brings back 9 starters to go along with 10 starters offensively from a team that was in the regional final last year. Look, if you're looking for it, when the 2017 summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football comes out, and you go and you look at the 2A Division II rankings, and you look at, let's just say, the top 10, and
that might be an undersell,
and you see Tenaha there, and you're wondering, why are they there?
Yeah.
That's why.
It's a big reason.
19 starters back from a team that played 14 games last year.
Extremely talented, great quarterback coming back in C.J. Horn, and played Bremont.
Yeah,
about as well as anyone.
And Rashad Paul's not going to play him.
Right.
So that's a big. Tenaha is definitely a team we have our eye on. Same thing goes with Wink. Wink, a playoff team last year, 6-5 a year ago. They bring back 10 starters defensively to go along with 9 starters offensively. That's really impressive. And then Cross Plains. Cross Plains, the Buffaloes, 8-4 last year. And so they win a playoff game. They go 2 rounds deep. They bring back 10 starters on both sides of the ball. 10 starters. That's a number.
Yeah.
And that really, functionally, that may mean they lost 1 guy, right? Because as you mentioned, we're now down in 2A Division II. The numbers are thin. The numbers and the margins are thin. Cross Plains may have literally just lost 1 guy because he might have been a 2-way starter. They could bring back, every other piece of that team. Cross Plains is definitely a team to watch in 2017. Those are the most experienced teams. You can, of course, see all of them in the 2017 summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, coming out a little bit, mid-June. But those are teams we definitely got our eye on just because of the sheer number of returning experienced guys they've got coming back.